specifically how I do scaffolding for really struggling students. All right? And you're going to actually do some work as well. So I'm going to talk about it for a few moments. Then I'm going to ask you if you have a laptop to take out your laptop, and we can do a little bit of pseudo-coding together. We'll kind of talk about how we would do that. And then if you don't have a laptop, I have a printout for you. Okay?
Okay.
Got it? If you have a laptop, could you take the laptop, take it out so that you can have that ready?
If you don't have paper, we'll give the paper.
So you don't need the printouts yet. We're just going to go through it for a few slides first. Kind of introduce what I do, how I differentiate, and then we'll do a little bit of pseudo-coding together. I'll share with you how I do it. And again, you don't have to do anything that I do. It's just to kind of give you an example of something that you may want to consider. Okay? So what I was saying before, of course, and I think many of you have the same concerns, right, is that I have a very diverse set of students, right? Most of them have no computer science experience. Some of them struggle with abstract thinking, they struggle with algebra, some of them. I'll wait for a moment for everybody to get Some students come in very advanced. Some students have no experience, but they pick it up very quickly and they fall in love with it. Some students take a while to warm up to it, right? So it's kind of all over the place in terms of what I first meet my students every year. Okay? I had one student that started the class saying, because I had 34 kids in the class, that you never come over and help me, so I'm not going to pass anyway, so I'm not going to bother to do anything. He's now one of the best students in the class. All right? So it took a little time, but eventually it warmed up. He got it, you know. He was able to kind of do programs without any help from me at all. So he's doing great. All right. So how do we keep everybody engaged? So I think engagement is obviously really important. I know myself, I was fortunate when I was in high school. I was a pretty good math student. Maybe not as good in every other subject, but I was a good math student. And I always hated when I finished the problem that I was done. Like I always wanted more challenges. I didn't like being bored, right? And so I think it's really important for students to be able to be excited in class and not feel like, okay, I'm done, so I'm just going to open up the chess program on my computer and do something else, right? Or do work for another class. I want them to have something to keep learning, to go as far as they can, right? And then others need that extra support to get to the level that they can begin to be productive. So, of course, differentiation, I do it on many different levels. Okay, so of course, we have the cs50 problem sets where students can self-select the problems they're going to work on, right? The materials are there that they can, if they're an advanced student and they come in or they kind of get into it really quickly, there's so much material online, right? There's the walkthroughs, there's the shorts, there's the lectures, right? There's notes. There's so much material online. There's sample codes that Professor Malin does in lecture that are available to you. So there are so many examples and so much material online for advanced students. They are often able to move ahead on their own. They sometimes never even ask me for help. All right? Some, of course, ask me for help every day. So there's a large number, right? One thing I do is that, and kind of something that Professor Malin mentioned also, so for students that finish early, I'll keep a chart on the wall, a big poster for every problem that they work on. And if they're willing, and every student is not up for it, but if they're willing, if they finish maybe Mario very quickly, they might become a class expert on Mario. So I'll put them on the expert list. They're going to be part of our experts for that problem. And now I make sure all the other students know they can look, if they're working on Mario and they're struggling, and I'm busy working with a student over here, they can go with the student on that poster. Right? I give them some extra credit for it. Of course, they have the prestige of being like a wouldn't expert, right? The extra credit usually helps a lot too. They always like to get a little extra credit, right? So I'll ask them to do that, and that helps a lot to kind of keep the class going when I'm not able to be there to help every single student. And then again, we're going to take a look today at the scaffolding, and I often do allow the struggling students extra time. And I know that's something different schools have different philosophies on that. But again, I don't want a student feeling so stressed because they have 6 other subjects they're working on, or this is just something they take more time, they need more time to get used to understanding how to do this. I don't want them to feel so stressed on Thursday night that they have to debug their code to submit it by Friday or they're going to fail, So I often will give them extra time. And I do let them know if they're struggling with a problem, of course, I don't want them to feel that pressure to copy a solution from a friend, right? And there's always that, concern. I don't want them to feel if they have to get it in tomorrow, they don't know what to do. The only thing they could do is copy it from a friend. So that's why I say if you struggle, come to me, ask me, and in most cases I give you the extra time to have. I'll explain it to you, we'll break it down, we'll look at it again, and so I try to really stress that over and over again. At times, and I don't do this for everything, but at the very, very end of this semester, right, when the problem sets are getting much harder, and I have a couple of students who just, really have some issues, and it might not even just be issues with computer science, but other issues with, staying organized or other things going on in their lives, I will sometimes allow them to do an alternate writing assignment to replace a programming problem. It would have to be something where they do research, maybe a current issue in technology, or writing about a particular new product, so that it's still technology related, but that it's another way that they could get credit and not fear that they're going to fail the class, get credit for it, but maybe do something an alternate assignment. Again, I don't do that for many problems, usually at the end of the semester or the end of the year when the difficulty ramps up and they're just not really there yet, and the books are closing, I need to get the grades in, I might say, okay, I'll give them an alternative to do. All right. Another thing I've created a couple of years ago, I didn't use these this year because I tried to use all the practice problems, but I'll make these available to you. They're not going to be available, they may not be available after the summer because this is an older CS50 lab environment that is going to be going away. Maybe something will substitute, I'm not sure how it's going to work, but you can have them right now. I'll give you the whole list of all of these. I made these little skills-based CS50 labs. They look a little different. The terminal, when you compile, gives you a message. So it doesn't look exactly the same, but you're welcome to use them if you want. So they're very specific on specific topics like data types or how to use printf for different format codes, or something like this where maybe we're just looking at a sorting algorithm. I'll particularly use the sorting and searching labs that I've created so that the students get a chance to develop these algorithms on their own. Because for me, I feel like it's important for them to understand how they work, and the best way to understand how they work is for them to be able to code them. So again, I have a whole list of these. They're actually already shared. If you go to, and don't do it right now, but a little later, if you go to the agenda, you'll see there's a link for all of these labs, right? And again, I'm not guaranteeing they're going to work past the summer, but if you want to see them or get ideas for them, you're welcome to do that. Now, I've had a couple of students on the other side that moved so quickly through the curriculum. This year, I had one student, this has never happened in 8 years before, who finished the entire CS50X curriculum in the first month of school. I don't know how he did that. He obviously came in with a lot of experience. I've never had anybody finish the whole curriculum in 1 month. So I had him go through the CS50 Python curriculum, finish that the next month. Then I gave him the CS50 Artificial Intelligence curriculum. He finished that. And now I think he's working on the CS50 game curriculum. So the nice thing is that there are other things there in the CS50 universe that students can do. So if you have that very rare student, again, 150 students over 8 years, it doesn't happen often. Last year I did have a couple of students, and maybe they got very used to, I think maybe when they were working remotely during COVID, there were a couple of students who just became very used to being able to work independently, look things up. So I had a couple of students that pretty much went through the curriculum, but it took a little longer. But they eventually got through the entire curriculum before the rest of the class. And so I gave them the Python curriculum to work on after that. So again, the goal is to always have students engaged. There's really so much material, they never really run out of something that you do. And the nice thing about staying in the CS50 universe is that there's a similar feeling and a similar workflow to how the programs work. You have a problem spec, you have a problem, you have a way of submitting it, and so it's a familiar environment, and it allows me to kind of keep them going as well. And then again, as I mentioned, I use the poster system for the CS50 TAs, or experts, right? We call it the expert system. And so I do encourage students to help each other out. We talk a lot about how to help each other out with academic integrity. What does that look like, right? Ask good questions, give hints. You never let somebody look at your finished code, right? You never tell somebody exactly what to type in. And I tell them also you're not allowed to touch their keyboard. I don't want like an expert student going, oh, fixed it for you, and then the other student has no idea what happened, right? So we want to make sure that everybody is doing their own code. So again, that helps a lot as well, particularly with large classes. So how do I do the scaffolding? So often what I'll do is that I'll bring a group, I'll kind of keep track of who's doing what. I'll bring together a group of the students who are really struggling at the table in the front of the room. I may make other people move out of the way, right? So you're going to come to the front of the room. And then I'll have them bring their laptops with them. And we'll go through together and we will do like another walkthrough of the program, take a look at the problem spec, make sure where to show, because sometimes students don't even know where to look to get where do I find the information about what I do? There's so much stuff here. So I'll make sure we go, we look at the specification, we make sure we understand what is expected for this particular problem, what's the goal here. Then we'll maybe download the distribution code, which is usually just in main void at the beginning, right? And then we'll start to do a little pseudocoding together, right? So, and sometimes if they're really, really struggling, we may even just begin to code the first couple lines of the program. Maybe a do-while loop to validate user input. And I'll kind of try to do it interactively with them, right? What are we going to test for? What kind of conditions should we have here? So we may do something like that, all right? So what I wanted to do, I thought that we could try to do a little bit of this together, and then you can do this in groups. We'll do one program together, which is one of the practice problems, and then what you'll do is you'll go up to the rooms you were in yesterday, right? We're using the micro-teaching. You'll meet with the same groups. If you have a laptop, take your laptop with you, right? And I have printouts, and I'll pass these around for students that don't have laptops. For the problem spec, I have an abbreviated version, so it wasn't tons of paper to print out. But if you go to the agenda, right? If you go to the agenda, you know the agenda for today, where you have the links for everything. Does everybody know where to find that? So under the presentation differentiating, there's a bunch of links. So you see a link from the first link is called prime.c. And this is one of the practice problems that we're going to take a look at. So I'm going to pass these. Take one if you don't have a computer, or just, let me just give you maybe not quite as many. Hang on. So that I can pass them around. So pass them around in back if you don't have a computer. If you have a computer, you'll use that instead. So if you can pass these back, if you don't have a computer, you can take one of the printouts. Sure. Take what you need and pass it around. Okay? Okay, so if you do not have a computer, take a printout. Alright, if you don't have one, just pass it back. So take it in. So we're actually going to change our plan. We're not going to go to the rooms from yesterday. We're going to work in rooms here, which just makes it easier. All right, they're coming back here. Printouts are coming back. If you don't have printouts, I have one here. Anybody still need printouts? Everybody have a printout that doesn't have a laptop? Yeah? So I give a hint here, right? The easiest way to check if a number is prime is to try to divide it by every number from 2 up to but not including the number itself. If it divides with no remainder, that is, if it divides into it, I guess that's a typo. If it divides with a remainder, it's not prime, right? So the main function has a for loop, right? So really we're creating like the inner for loop of two nested for loops. The main function has a for loop that looks at every number within a particular range. And then you're going to be completing a function that checks that number and returns true or false depending on whether or not the number is prime. All right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with, and you can do this if you have a laptop as well, do it with me. Copy the line, and then in the code space, we're going to see if I have this. What we're going to do is we'll start with the distribution. Now, before you do this with students, you may want to have the solution printed out next to you, so that you kind of remember exactly what you're going to do to get there. All right. So here is the distribution code. All right, so what I might do next is that I'll walk through with students what exactly is this code doing. All right, because sometimes students are still just learning to understand, particularly this is a Unit 1 problem, understand some basic stuff, right? So I might just ask them, what is this, why do we hash include cs50.h, what does that allow us to do, why are we including standard IO.h, right? Mention this is the function prototype of the function you're going to create, right? Maybe ask some questions about it. We have our main function, right? We have a typical do-while loop. We're declaring a new variable, right? Then I might even mention to the students, why do I have to declare the variable before my do-while loop? Just as a way of reviewing some key concepts. So basically, we're just getting a minimum and a maximum value, right? Where the minimum is going to be cannot be less than 1, and the maximum has to be at least as big as the minimum, right? So that we don't take some bad inputs. Okay? So then we have a for loop that's given to us that starts at the minimum number, whatever that's given, and it iterates through the maximum, inclusive. And then we execute this function, right? I might say that prime is going to return true or false. So I could also say this, and I might just show the student how I could just say if prime, because that is true or false, or I could say if prime equals, with the input of I, equals true. And then I'll make sure to mention that we're going to be testing, because the input for the function, right, the argument that's being passed to it is going to start where I starts, which is the minimum value input up here. It's going to iterate through the maximum value. And if necessary, I might remind them how a for loop works, right? We have the setup version of the for loop, the setup portion, right, that runs once the initialization phase, our condition to determine if it's going to run, and then we have iteration, which executes after the function, after the loop is executed. All right. So I'm going to be using the function here to determine if the number is true, and if it is true, we're going to print it out here. So far, so good? All right, so I'll make sure to explain. How do we know if it's not a factor, right? So this is actually, I might even indent it like this, because this is actually going to be part of my if statement, right? That's how my code would work, right? So then what might I say here? Who wants to help out? How would I, because I would prompt the students, I want to keep the students involved, right? So how might I, from here, let them know that? Because one of the things that students will often do, right, one of the mistakes might be to put return true right over here, right? Oh, if the I didn't, it was not a factor, so I'm going to return true, right? But what happens if I return true right over here? Does everybody see what I'm saying? Before the for loop concludes, if I return true, is this going to work?
No.
Will?
Everything will be true.
Sorry?
Every number that's given will be true, except that including the one that modulo mod by I, it will be true again. Every number that
Right. You need to test every number, you're saying.
every number that in the range of number will be true.
Right, that's right. It would always end up being true, right? Because the first number that doesn't have a remainder, then you're automatically going to return true.
Yeah, automatically.
And we don't want to do that. So we would want to make sure that we talk about that, right? So then we want to say, so this is a loop. So